Hi, everyone. I wanted to do a quick video on how scan policies and compliance frameworks are coming together to provide a really great experience for customers and to replace the compliance pipelines feature that we have traditionally tended to recommend to customers. So a couple of things to note. First of all, I'm at the top level group of my subscription on GitLab.com. So Julie Byrne Demo is an ultimate subscription. And I'm looking at the secure menu compliance center page. I have some frameworks defined. These compliance frameworks are not going away. They're actually going to continue to be used and have more and more functionality built around them. So it's important to distinguish between compliance frameworks and compliance pipelines, which used to be those CI pipelines attached to the framework label to say, if a project has this label, execute this pipeline. Okay, so the frameworks are going to stay, and I've got a couple of frameworks already defined. For example, this standard AppSec framework is one that we are going to dig into in just a few moments. And then the list of projects underneath the top level group are also shown here, and you can start to add frameworks to projects. I should mention that the compliance frameworks now are all going to get managed at the top level of the group. If you try to create one at a subgroup level, it will still show it at the top group level, even though you thought you created it at a subgroup. It's a little confusing. It is a change in the behavior, but that's how it works now. And then there's also some permissions considerations. I have got to dig into further, but I think you basically need to be the group owner in order to associate frameworks to projects. I'll follow up on that though, and I'll drop a note in terms of what I find. So I'm going to add a framework to this security feature demo project, and I'll use my standard AppSec framework. What this is going to say is that whatever policies are associated to this standard AppSec framework, we are going to apply to this project and any other projects that have this framework associated to them. You notice I said policies, not compliance pipelines, and that's because now with the frameworks themselves, we do have the ability to specify one or more policies to associate to that specific framework. So we can go in and I think we can actually edit the framework. And here we can see that we have linked policies to that specific framework. Now I had created an approval policy that I decided I wasn't going to use, but this SaaS required policy is now linked to this framework. These policies are defined at the top level of the group as well. And when we define the policies, we can specify whether they're going to be run for all projects in the group, or we can specify whether they're going to be run for all projects except for projects listed in an exception list, or for only projects that have the appropriate specified framework label associated to them. Okay, so I'm going to show you that in just a moment. If I go now to our policies, here I can see the SaaS required policy that I've already created, and I can see that it's associated with this standard AppSec framework. I can go and add a new policy if I want to. So let's just say we want to do a secret detection policy. And now you can see that I have a couple of different policy scope options. These have been available, I think, since 16.9 actually, which surprised me. I hadn't had a chance to use them. So I was thrilled when I started playing with them and to see how easy they work. So I can specify all subgroups and projects in the group, or the policy scope can be projects with a specific compliance framework. And that's where I had chosen my standard AppSec framework. Or as I talked about before, you can say specific projects. Oh, so there's two options actually. You can give a list of specific projects to apply it to, or you can say all projects or subgroups and projects in the group without exception or with the exception of these projects. So you can give an exception list of projects that shouldn't have the policies applied. This is much easier than the way we used to manage the policies at the group level. You could associate it to a specific group, but there was no way to, originally there was no way to prevent the policies from being run in specific projects. And you get into these weird situations like your security policy project was also in the same group as where the policies are being enforced, and it was strange. So now you can add those as exceptions. You can choose which projects should be exceptions, right? So I can accept the security policy project. Or as I said before, you can just manually keep a list of specific projects. What's good about the frameworks is that now you can start to associate different policies with a type of framework. And then you don't have to, you can just maintain the labels, the framework labels on each project without manually adjusting the list of projects. It's just a nicer, cleaner way to be able to manage the frameworks via the compliance center, and then add the frameworks to the appropriate projects that should have them. Then with the actions, we can just specify secret detection as we typically would. And we can run every time a pipeline runs against all branches and configure with a merge request. Now here we can see in terms of the YAML for the policy, now we have this policy scope section, and we can see the compliance framework IDs for which compliance frameworks use this policy are automatically added. And then we would do the same thing as before, configure with a merge request, and then merge those changes to apply them. And so now this policy for secret detection should be added to our, now we're in our policy projects, let's go back. Oh, and I made a mistake before we'll skip that for now, but we'll go back to that in a separate video. But so now what we can see if we go to the compliance center, now we can see that our framework for our standard AppSec has two policies associated to it, our SAS required and our secrets detection. Now for our 2024 security feature demo, what does this mean? Well, essentially it means that it doesn't matter what we have in our GitLab CI file. In this case, we only have a build job. Once we go ahead and make some changes, and let me just go in here and make some stupid change. What we're going to see is that whatever scans we have defined in our policies for scan execution policies, they're now going to take effect once we make changes. Make a simple change that's kind of silly and commit it. And now we should see a pipeline kick off. So if we go into our build pipelines, my mouse is being weird today. I don't know what's going on. But now we can see for this pipeline, we have both our build stage and our test stage. Our test stage contains our secret detection and our SAST scans that are enforced by those two separate policies that were added to the compliance framework that is associated to this project. Now there's a part 2 here that I will give you a sneak preview to in just a moment, and then I'll create a separate video for this. But the part 2 is that when you start to define your policies now, as you define these policies, there is a new policy type that is going to allow you to specify, oh, it's not set up yet. All right, I guess I'll have to give you the preview in the next section, but there is a new policy type that you can enable as an experiment in your group. And that is basically a generic YAML policy that's going to allow you to do exactly what you could do before with compliance pipelines, which is write a custom YAML file with whatever things you want in it that are jobs that need to be executed as part of a pipeline for those projects that have the policy enforced. So I'll do a separate video once I get that set up and show that to you in the next part. All right. Hopefully everybody's excited about these new features. I'm certainly excited. I think they're going to make our customers' lives a lot easier in terms of how to maintain policies. Drop any questions into Slack. Happy to answer any questions anyone has. Thanks.